What if I told you that in modern Britain, you could smuggle £14.4 million worth of cocaine, flood entire cities with deadly drugs, corrupt your own family members, and face punishment so pathetic that each year of your sentence represents over £1 million worth of drugs you flooded onto Britain's streets? What if I told you that while Singapore, Malaysia, and Saudi Arabia would execute you for this exact same crime, Britain gives you 13 years and a university degree in prison? This is the true crime story of Farzana Kauser. To her neighbors, she was just another struggling single mum working in a care home. But behind that innocent facade was Britain's most cunning and dangerous cocaine queenpin, who masterminded a drug empire that would make Pablo Escobar jealous. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Britain's justice system faces serious questions, why sentencing patterns raise concerns among legal experts, and why this case highlights major flaws in how we handle serious crime. But first, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, because what I'm about to reveal about Britain's soft justice system will make your blood boil. And trust me, you'll want to share this with everyone you know. Picture this. A modest cul-de-sac in Bradford. Neat gardens, quiet neighbors, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone. House prices around £180,000. Working class families trying to make ends meet. And in that perfectly ordinary street lived what appeared to be a perfectly ordinary woman. Farzana Kauser, 54 years old. Single mother of 5 children. Working at a local care home, looking after elderly residents. To her neighbors, Farzana was the definition of a devoted mum. But here's what makes this story absolutely chilling. While Farzana was pretending to care for vulnerable elderly people during the day, she was actually running one of the most sophisticated international drug smuggling operations Britain has ever seen. And the most shocking part? She wasn't just destroying random strangers' lives with her cocaine empire. She was systematically recruiting her own family members to become her criminal associates. Now, before we dive into how this operation actually worked, I need to explain something that will blow your mind. Something the mainstream media completely missed. This wasn't just a drug smuggling case. This was a masterclass in psychological manipulation that reveals exactly how criminal masterminds operate. You see, Farzana didn't just wake up one day and decide to become a drug lord. She used advanced psychological techniques that most people don't even realize exist. Techniques that criminal psychologists study. Techniques that explain how ordinary people become monsters. Her first technique was gradual normalization. This is where you slowly introduce criminal behavior as normal over months or years. You don't start by asking someone to smuggle £14 million worth of cocaine. You start small. Maybe you ask them to take a harmless package to Amsterdam. Maybe you tell them it's just avoiding some tax. Maybe you make it sound like everyone does it. Before they know it, they're in so deep they can't get out. Her second technique was family loyalty exploitation. This is particularly evil. You use the strongest human bond, the bond between parent and child, as a weapon. You don't give orders. You make requests. Can you help mummy with this small favor? We need this money for the family. Don't you want to help your brothers and sisters? By the time we dive into the details of this case, you'll see both of these techniques in action. And you'll understand why Farzana Kauser isn't just a criminal. She's a criminal mastermind who destroyed her own family for money. But first, let me show you the scale of what we're dealing with. This wasn't some small-time operation. This was an international conspiracy spanning 3 continents. From the beaches of Cancun in Mexico, to the airports of Birmingham, to the mountains of Pakistan. And at the center of it all, a care home worker from Bradford who nobody suspected. November 24, 2024. Birmingham Airport. A normal Thursday afternoon. Families returning from holidays. Business travelers checking their phones. Everything perfectly ordinary. But what the thousands of passengers walking through that terminal didn't know, was that they were witnessing the final act of one of the most audacious drug smuggling operations in British history. Here's how the operation worked. And this is where it gets absolutely diabolical. Step 1. Farzana's children would book flights to seemingly innocent destinations. Amsterdam. Dublin. Short trips, no luggage. Just carry-on bags. Looking like regular young people taking weekend breaks. But here's the genius part, and this shows you how sophisticated this operation really was. They would time their return flights to Birmingham to coincide exactly with incoming flights from Cancun, Mexico. While Farzana's kids were sipping coffee in Amsterdam, corrupt baggage handlers in Cancun were loading suitcases packed with pure Colombian cocaine onto Mexico to Birmingham flights. Then, when both flights landed at Birmingham within hours of each other, here's what happened. Farzana's children would walk to the baggage carousel, not for their own bags. Remember, they traveled light only to collect suitcases they'd never seen before. Suitcases packed with enough cocaine to supply entire cities. And if anyone asked why they were collecting bags from a Mexico flight when they'd flown from Amsterdam? Simple. Oh, we're picking up for family who were on holiday. Completely innocent. Completely believable. Except those suitcases contained 180 kilograms of pure cocaine. Street value, £14.4 million. To put that in perspective, that's enough cocaine to create approximately 18,000 new drug addicts. Enough to destroy entire communities. Enough to generate millions in profits for organized crime. And they'd done this successfully at least 5 times before getting caught. Which means the cocaine already on British streets from their previous runs? We're talking potentially £70 million worth of drugs. Already sold. Already consumed. Already destroying lives. But here's what makes this story even more disturbing. Remember, this wasn't some hardened criminal gang. This was a family. And the person orchestrating it all was the mother. Farzana Kauser, the mastermind. Her 4 sons, Umair Mohammed, 22. Junaid Shafak, 33. Mohammed Ahmed Shafak, 28. And Hamza Shafak, who was just 17 when his mother recruited him. When most young people his age are worried about exams and university applications, this family member was being trained by his mother to smuggle Class A substances through international airports. She also recruited her 20-year-old daughter, Safa Noor, and her daughter-in-law, Sarah Hussein. An entire family turned into a criminal enterprise. This brings us to the third criminal psychology technique Farzana used, compartmentalization. Each family member only knew their small part of the operation. They didn't know about the corrupt handlers in Mexico. They didn't know about the mysterious uncle in Pakistan who was providing instructions. They just knew, fly somewhere, come back, collect a bag, deliver it. This meant if one person got caught, they couldn't bring down the entire operation. It's the same technique used by terrorist cells and international spy networks. And throughout all of this, Farzana maintained her cover as a humble care home worker. Going to work every day, caring for elderly residents, appearing completely normal to her colleagues and neighbors. But at home, she was running a criminal empire that would make the Cray twins jealous. November 24, 2024. The National Crime Agency, Britain's version of the FBI, had been watching. 4 months, they'd been building their case. Surveillance, phone taps, financial monitoring. And when Farzana's family walked into Birmingham Airport that Thursday afternoon to collect their latest shipment of cocaine, they walked straight into the biggest drugs bust of their lives. 180 kilograms of pure cocaine seized. Street value, £14.4 million. An entire family arrested. Operation shut down. The community was shocked. Remember what the neighbors said? We couldn't believe it when she was arrested. She seemed like such an ordinary mum. But here's where this story takes a turn that will make you question everything about Britain's justice system. July 2025. Sentencing day. After months of legal proceedings, It was time for justice to be served. The judge had to decide, what punishment fits the crime of smuggling £14.4 million worth of cocaine involving multiple family members? Farzana Kauser, the mastermind who orchestrated an international drug empire, who corrupted her own children, who flooded British streets with enough cocaine to destroy thousands of lives. 13 years and 4 months. 13 years and 4 months. Let me put that in perspective for you. £14.4 million worth of drugs. Divided by 13.3 years in prison. That's over £1 million per year of sentence. In other words, Britain's justice system is saying that flooding our streets with £1 million worth of cocaine is worth exactly 1 year of comfortable prison time. That's the rate we're punishing drug dealers at. Meanwhile, people who shoplift goods worth £50 can get 6 months in prison. People who commit benefit fraud worth £10,000 can get 2 years. But smuggle £1 million worth of cocaine per year? Apparently that's perfectly acceptable punishment. But here's what will really make your blood boil. In Singapore, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, China, Thailand, and dozens of other countries, Farzana Kauser would have received the death penalty for this exact same crime. The death penalty. For the same crime that got her 13 years in a British prison where she'll have access to education, healthcare, recreational facilities, and the possibility of early release for good behavior. In fact, with good behavior, Farzana could be walking free in just 6 to 7 years. At age 61. Still young enough to enjoy whatever millions she has hidden away. And speaking of hidden money, here's another shocking detail. Despite generating potentially £70 million in drug sales over 5 successful runs, the authorities recovered less than £100,000 from Farzana's assets. Where are the millions? Probably safely tucked away in Pakistan with the mysterious uncle who was never caught, never identified, never prosecuted. So let me get this straight. The mastermind serves 13 years and walks away with millions. The foot soldiers, her own children, get destroyed. And the British taxpayer pays £40,000 per year to keep her in prison. That means we, you and me, will pay over £500,000 to house and feed the woman who poisoned our communities with cocaine. £500,000 that could have gone to schools, hospitals, community programs, drug rehabilitation centers. But wait. It gets worse. Let's look at what happened to the rest of the family. Because this is where you'll see just how broken Britain's justice system really is. Son Umair Mohammed, 22 years old, 8 years and 1 month. Son Junaid Shafak, 33, 10 years and 9 months. Son Mohammed Amir Shafak, 28, 8 years and 9 months. Daughter Safa Noor, just 20 years old, 7 years and 2 months. Daughter-in-law Sarah Hussein, 28, 2 years suspended sentence, meaning no prison time at all. And here's an important detail. One family member, who was under 18 when initially involved, is still awaiting sentencing. When a parent involves their child in criminal activities, child protection experts consider this one of the most serious forms of family dysfunction. Now, I need to be very careful here because this involves a minor. But what I can tell you is this. When a parent exploits their own child for criminal purposes, it's considered one of the most serious forms of abuse by child protection experts. According to criminal psychologists, children who are recruited into crime by their own parents suffer long-term psychological damage that can take decades to overcome. Trust issues, guilt, shame, difficulty forming healthy relationships. And statistically, children who enter the criminal justice system at a young age are far more likely to reoffend throughout their lives. Farzana didn't just destroy her son's present, she potentially destroyed his entire future. So let's add up the total sentences. Farzana, 13 years 4 months. Her children and daughter-in-law, approximately 41 years combined. Total family sentences, 54 years. 54 years of prison time for £14.4 million worth of cocaine. That's roughly £267,000 of drugs per year of sentence. To put that in perspective, people have received longer sentences for armed robbery of a few £1,000, burglary of someone's home, selling counterfeit goods worth a few £100, benefit fraud worth tens of thousands. But smuggle millions of pounds worth of cocaine that will destroy thousands of lives? Apparently that's not so serious. And remember, while Britain gives these criminals university degrees in prison, other countries are executing people for the exact same crimes. Which brings us to the question that's driving thousands of comments on social media. Why do British drug sentences appear so lenient compared to international standards? Now, I'm not making accusations about individual judges. But I am highlighting that when you see this pattern repeatedly, large-scale drug operations receiving relatively light sentences, legal experts and the public start asking important questions. Questions like, are current sentencing guidelines adequate for modern organized crime? Do we need judicial reform? Are the deterrent effects of current sentences working as intended? Because here's the thing. If Britain had Singapore's approach to drug trafficking, do you think we'd have this problem? If drug smugglers knew they faced death instead of a few years in comfortable prisons, would they still risk it? The evidence suggests probably not. Countries with harsh drug penalties have significantly lower rates of drug trafficking. It's simple deterrence theory. But instead, we have a system where a care home worker from Bradford can build an international cocaine empire, use her own children as drug mules, generate millions in profits, and face less punishment than someone who robs a corner shop. So let me ask you this. After everything you've learned in this video, do you think justice was served? Do you think 13 years is enough punishment for someone who smuggled £14.4 million worth of cocaine involving multiple family members? Let me know in the comments. Because based on the thousands of comments I've been seeing on videos about this case, the British public is absolutely furious about these sentences. Comments like, these sentences are ridiculously low. Should be life imprisonment. In Singapore she'd be dead. And that's exactly why you need to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Because mainstream media won't ask these hard questions. They won't investigate why British sentences are so soft. They won't connect the dots between lenient justice and rising crime. But we will. Every week, we expose the cases that make your blood boil. The criminals who got away with it. The sentences that don't fit the crimes. The system that's failing ordinary British people. Ask them why drug smugglers get such light sentences while ordinary criminals get hammered. Demand answers. Demand change. And if you want to see more cases like this, check out my other videos. Because until we fix Britain's broken justice system, there will be more Farzana Kausers. More criminal masterminds who know they can make millions from drugs and face minimal consequences. More young people recruited into criminal activities by family members. More communities destroyed by illegal substances. More victims let down by a system that legal experts say may need significant reform. But it doesn't have to be this way. Other countries have solved this problem. Other countries protect their communities. Other countries put victims before criminals. So subscribe now, share this video, and let's start demanding the justice system that Britain deserves. And remember, let me know in the comments, do you think Farzana Kauser's sentence was too lenient? Should Britain adopt Singapore-style penalties for drug trafficking? Are our judges being influenced by forces we don't understand? I read every single comment, and your insights help shape future investigations. Because together, we can expose the truth about Britain's broken justice system. Until next time, keep demanding justice. Keep asking questions.